phone before I say good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's good morning if you're still in America. And this morning's conversation, we're talking about what's going on in Mexico because the cartel has gone absolutely buck wild, setting the country on fire. And I'm going to go ahead and spoil the run. Yo, stop leaving America. If you're an American citizen, there is no good reason that doesn't involve seven figures to leave this country anymore. And hey, it's Lent, baby. That means we got Mario back.
Good morning, everyone. Apologies for my pretty much total no-show last week. You have to understand, when you're as experienced a drinker as I am, detoxing is simply no simple matter. Okay, so I was in a detox hell for the majority of last week. I have since recovered, and now I am here, bright, bushy-eyed, and sober. Okay, so
A sober
glad to see
Mario
you all.
will wonders never cease.
Yep,
My man.
I know.
So
it happens once a year.
you so as we were saying at the top of the in the pre-show, as it were, you were looking at the news around what's going on in Mexico right now this morning, and yeah. So what have you determined?
A subtle way of Chris saying, I have not read anything. Would you please go ahead and give us a primer here?
Oh no,
Yes,
I've been reading it all
yes, I
morning.
will.
I've been reading it all
Okay.
morning. We're going to start with this AP article, but hit me with it,
So,
Mario.
yeah, basically what has happened is the leader of the powerful Mexican cartel, Jalisco Generacion Nuevo, okay, has been gunned down. All right, in a shootout with Mexican security forces, in particular some Mexican special forces and the Air Force were coordinated. The United States military, probably direct support from NSA South, or I provided probably a pretty comprehensive target package on how to get this guy El Mencho. Real name is Nemesio, which really Nemesis. Your name is Nemesis, and
Yeah.
you wondered why you grew. You wonder why you grew up to be a cartel leader. You ended up getting one wrong.
And real quick, Mario, something you just said is very important. A lot of the kind of scuttlebutt on the social media platforms is that this was a joint operation between USA 4 and Mexican military. That's technically correct, but we didn't have troops on the ground.
It was just on the intelligence side.
This was not a kinetic American operation.
Yeah.
Our only involvement was likely intelligence package support, like Mario mentioned.
Correct. Well, we did provide them an intelligence package, as confirmed by some sources. But yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
And an intelligence package basically means we gave them here's your target. All right. And here is his pattern of life. All right. This is where he wakes up. This is what he does throughout the day. This is his pattern of movement. All right. This is where he's most likely to be found at whatever given hour.
Yeah, we can tell you when he'll be where. And yeah, we can tell you when he will be where.
That's right. That's right. And we can give you some internals as to basically what's going on between him and his lieutenants, okay, on the comment side.
Man, I used to love having that POL package in my pocket. I could just show up at the tea shop where I knew they were having meetings, just be like, hey, I'll take 3 terrorists and a hot black coffee.
Yeah. That's what I did. That was my primary job as a signator, okay? Whereas Chris was more on the reach out and touch you side. Okay, so if you get Chris and I both on you, now you got a problem. Okay, because I'm violating the shit out of your Fourth Amendment rights. Okay, to the extreme. All right, and then when I'm done, I'm going to hand that over to Chris, who's going to reach out and make contact with you. Okay, and it's not going to go well. All right, so you're looking at the total package here. Okay, it gets no better. But enough about why we used to be awesome. So, if any
pipe, it's on the wall, right?
If anything, if we had any actual physical assets on the ground, well, they wouldn't have been on the ground. We probably had ISR information, surveillance, and reconnaissance uh, drones. That is, okay, probably flying around, giving some real time updates on what was going on and tracking movement. But no, there were no U.S. troops on the ground, as far as we know. Okay,
Right.
as of right now, it was entirely a Mexican-led operation. Jalisco, the state of Jalisco or the city of Jalisco, is probably the last major like Wild West cartel city, okay, in Mexico. So the capture and killing of this man, and it's probably better that he died. They didn't kill him outright. He died while being medevaced back to Mexico City. Okay, but it's probably for the best because, as you know, like El Chapo, when top cartel leaders get captured and imprisoned in Mexico, they usually find a way out. Okay. That's why El Chapo escaped twice from Mexican prisons before finally being apprehended by U.S. forces, where he is currently being held at a what do they call those maximum security federal prisons? The APX, AMX, AMX Max prison
Right.
in Florence, Arizona. Okay, where he will literally never leave. Where security is so strict, no guard that has any Mexican ancestry is even allowed to come in contact with him. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Just to make doubly 100% sure. When you've got to have a security clearance to be a prison guard, that's when you know you're in a serious damn prison where there is no escape. You know what I mean? So,
And and yeah, like you said, it's better that he died. It's better that he died instead of being captured because let's face it. There's a reason you capture the enemy. And the
yep.
reason you capture the enemy is to interrogate him and
Mhm.
acquire the information required to get to exactly this kind of guy.
But
Right.
yeah,
When you capture somebody like El Mencho, there's not a next level to go to unless you've got pretty solid confidence that basically he's going to help you solve all the billionaire satanic pedophiles in the Epstein files. And
yeah,
I can promise you he won't.
no. Yep, yep. And also it will kick off. So the way in the cartels, okay, if the top leader gets killed, what this can often lead to is infighting. Okay, infighting amongst the lieutenants of the organization for who will be the next main leader. Because we
Correct.
in the cartels we are not. You know what I mean? It's not the same as say the Italian mafia, which rest in peace. Thanks FBI. Could have had our own home. We could have had our own homegrown. You know what I mean? Mafia organization controlling organized crime, where you could at least kept tabs on it, where there could at least been some liaison with the government, kind of like the Yakuza in Japan. But no, we decided to
Oh,
completely destroy the Italian mafia, basically leaving the field wide open for any other hostile foreign invader group to take over. But I digress. That's not the
basically,
subject for today's show.
if the Italian mafia had been handled correctly, and then cast forward into the modern context, we would live in a much
Mhm.
better America because they would essentially be a national security asset.
They were in World War II. The CIA
Yeah.
worked with the Italian mafia to basically monitor port operations on the East Coast. Okay, and to provide intelligence on, say, on provide intelligence, particularly on the invasion of Sicily. All right, Sicilia. So anyway, with the loss of the top leader in say the in a mafia organization, if the capo is down, then what's going to happen is there's going to be a sit down between the other capos, and they're going to come to a they're going to there's going to be a sit down. Okay, before it spills into open warfare, unless of course it is one of the other families that were to have said killed or taken out that mafia boss. Okay, uh, then there's going to be a sit down, and we're going to try to work this out and division of territories, maybe promotion of captains of that previous guy who was killed to avoid all-out warfare. Okay, within the Mexican cartel, all right, it's not quite as coordinated because there is a lot of information that is held by the top guy, which is shared essentially with no one. Okay, so key operational methods and details, okay, and networks and contacts for the entire cartel would have in effect been lost with the death of El Mencho himself. Okay, so that's why you saw in Mexico over the weekend the Jalisco cartel basically go buck wild. They stormed an airport. Basically, did a terrorism on the airport there in Jalisco, along with setting up roadblocks, kind of like a nightmare final BFM style riot on the highways, where they're not just blocking the roads, they're just lighting everything on fire. Okay,
You meant Nightmare Final BLM. BFM doesn't conduct riots.
You're right. Got that wrong. Sorry. Been a week.
Tempted, but
been a week. I'm
Also,
out of practice.
You mentioned kind of the etiquette around dealing with capos and the like, I realized that I missed a fantastic opportunity. This thumbnail could have said decapitated.
Ooh,
and I missed that one. I apologize. I dropped a great dad pun. It escaped me.
By the way, go back to that thumbnail. That's a very poor choice. Like if you were going to do that, I would recommend a road flare. Okay, attach it, light it, and then run. What are you doing? Like,
well, I've got something interesting for you then, Mario. I've got a clip that I pulled up because I did want to talk about this going on.
The article I posted has lots of little Twitter clippies. If you're interested.
Yeah, but I had one pulled up. Damn it, where'd it go? They were just straight up setting fire, pulling up on gas stations and setting them on. Oh, here.
Sergeant Major asks, is Trump a capo? Unfortunately not. That would be Netanyahu. Okay, Trump would be his best guy. All right, sadly.
Yeah, I had damn. These guys rolled up on a gas station and just like they chased off the people at the pumps, grabbed the pumps from them. So these poor guys already paid for their gas.
They might be burning rival gas stations, or the thing is, other than drugs, okay, and we're talking
Here it is.
We're talking the trafficking of the heavies, heroin, cocaine, fentanyl, right? Which the Jalisco Nuevo Generacion cartel is deeply entrenched in. All right, in the transport of drugs, trafficking of drugs and people across the border. They made billions during the Biden administration, by the way. Mm-hmm. Okay, with that open border.
And they also, when Mario says trafficking people, these cartels, especially this one, are trafficking infants.
Anyone really.
One of their big businesses. They'll traffic young children into forced prostitution, and then when they've just been completely worn slap out, they have them impregnated. Then they bring them back over the border into America, and take them to Planned Parenthood clinics for abortions. So that because the Planned Parenthood clinics are actively involved in harvesting organs from aborted fetuses.
Yep.
And that is a big part of the cartel business right now. This is the clip I was talking about. Watch these jokers. Okay, so they come up. They run these guys off who just paid for the gas. He's just bending over with a cigarette lighter and setting it on fire.
Notice the wind was actually favorable to his light point. Okay, I wonder if he realized that. If he did, well done. If not, man, you got hella lucky. What's up with the music?
I don't know. that's whatever somebody put on the clip.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's on the human trafficking angle. You know you're in a third world country when human life ceases to be like people with people with individual rights, and human life becomes a commodity. Okay, and for a long time, if not forever, that's how life has been in Mexico. If you're not within a if you're not living in a gated community, that is okay, or
Right.
a walled in community, right? So
And
yeah,
here's the thing, this is the world today, right? If you get outside of the United States, and even within the US, if you're in a major city, like you basically need to understand this is what the world looks like right now. If you leave the United States today, you're either going to a place that is controlled by cartels, Chinese communists, or violent Islamic extremists, the migrants, right? You in the US, you find yourself in a majority Muslim community, you might as well be in Baghdad, in Afghanistan. You might as well just forget that you're in America, because you're not at that point. These
yeah,
enclaves in the United States are a problem, but if you can steer clear of those, you do pretty good. And be safe in the United States, but the rest of the world right now is, and I do mean the rest of the world, Canada, Great Britain, etc. Every safe Western country that you think you can name is no longer a safe Western country.
you're not safe. No, nope, nope. There's a other than other than Asia, all right. There are a lot of Asian countries where you do it. There is security, there is law and order. Okay, um, probably not under the best of premises. All right, a lot of heavy-handed authoritarian, a
It
lot of
looks like right
heavy-handed
now Japan is
authoritarianism.
about your
Right?
best bet.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't go to Japan. It's
I
I
didn't
don't
say
want.
I would go to Japan. I said it's your best bet outside of the U.S. right now.
I guess, but they don't want you there either. Okay, and I don't blame them. So get out to white pigu. Don't blame them. Well, not to go on a tangent, but Japan in the last few years made a ill ill-fated decision to allow in Indian workers, okay, to shore up labor gaps, okay, and they figured out pretty fucking quick, like, oh my god, we don't need these people, we don't want these people, what the fuck, okay,
And they are
yeah,
changing course on that hard right now.
they are, but it's always like they do and then they don't, they do and then they don't, so it's I don't know, it's they're schizophrenic, okay. David Mathey 7117 says, especially Canada right now. Yes, Canada has collapsed effectively, and all right, whatever. I guess it's not that much of a tangent because at least we're in North America. All right,
Right.
but yeah, United States, we got there is a collapse. There is a collapse of civilization occurring both on our northern and southern border right now. Okay, and there's a collapse in there's a slow burning collapse in civilization within our own borders itself. Okay, but in Canada, the problem is gotten pretty severe. If you look at the per capita income, Canada's poorer than Alabama now. Like Alabama has a higher quality, higher standard of living. That not that I'm shitting on the South, okay, but you know what I mean. Like Alabama, Mississippi,
Yeah.
for largely for particular demographic reasons, okay, usually score at the bottom in the United States as far as like key metrics of education, health, life expectancy, etc. But compared to the other the other 48 states, right? Canada is worse than that. So Canada has a lower quality of life than the average resident of Alabama, and it is because they have doubled their population in the last 15 years entirely with immigrants, mostly from India and China, who have effectively now taken over local government and have effectively colonized them. Canada, I don't know if you covered this last week, but Canada recently signed a treaty where they're going to be allowing Chinese troops into Canada to shore up their security, if you will. Okay, so
Yeah.
actual Chinese communist troops will be on the ground in Canada. Canada has been the Chinese have been infiltrating Canada, particularly British Columbia, all right, for a long time, going on about 2 decades at this point. They have established multiple supply depots with Chinese military materiel throughout Canada that can be unlocked. Yeah, this is true. I've got this Stefan Verstappen, Boomer Supreme from Canada. Okay, been reporting on this for years. So yeah, importing Chinese troops, and they've basically already got all the supplies there. Okay, so if they wanted to, it could be some kind of shock attack against the United States, or just reinforce their the fact that Canada is, or at least Western Canada is a Chinese colony. Okay, and Toronto and Ottawa, Eastern Canada, basically, uh, every, you know, uh, west of Quebec, that is an Indian colony at this point. All right, Canada's colonized. Canada is ruined, and we will at some point have to do something, which is why we need to not attack Iran. Not that I want to get into that, but we're
going to get into that later this week. Probably
we have to focus. We have got to focus on what is going on in our hemisphere. Okay, that is the United States' primary concern. That is
the Don Rowe Doctrine.
Right. The Don Rowe Doctrine. Okay, we need to be focused on, for example, like decapitating Venezuela. Okay, pretty cool. I mean, I don't know if I would have signed off on it. I don't know if I would have been too keen on that if they had been telegraphing that in the media. Well, I mean, they were by the staging of naval assets. Okay, but at least that they got out of that one clean. All right. Now, but yeah, regardless, in our hemisphere is where the majority of our threats are. Okay, Mexico has been the number one threat of the United States for decades. Right, due to the soft invasion. Soft invasion of millions. A quarter of the population of Mexico resides within the United States. All right, that's been going on for decades. That is essentially a form of warfare through immigration. All right, by terraforming vast expanses of the Southwest, California, and far beyond that, all the way up to like Bangor, Maine. All right, with illegal immigrants who send remittances back to Mexico. Okay,
yep.
India does the same thing. Like, what is it? I don't know what the percentages of the GDP of India is direct remittances from the United States, Canada, and beyond, because India's foreign policy is to stuff as much of its excess male population as it possibly can into any other country that it possibly can. Okay, because they've been running sex selective abortion schemes for decades, where they're aborting female fetuses in preference of male, and now you've got a huge population of excess males, and that's kind of dangerous to have in your country. It is dangerous to have a huge population of excess males who are unbreedable within your own borders. That's how you get revolution. That's how you get internal strife. Okay, better to send them to other countries to be their problem, and that's India's game. Okay, which is also a form of warfare. Anyway, but yeah, Canada, Mexico, those are the primary strategic military concerns of the United States right now.
Okay, real quick, Mario, just because you brought it up, just under 5% of India's GDP comes from U.S. remittances. Mexico, about the same. And Somalia, 15% of their GDP is from U.S. remittance.
Yeah.
Guys, that's insane.
You got to take into account what other percentage of Somalia's GDP per se is direct foreign aid. Okay, I'm sure if you included all foreign aid, I'm sure it would be up to like at least 50%. I mean, what do they produce? Khat. They produce a mild narcotic that you can chew on and get high. What else does Somalia produce other than poverty, inbred babies, and piracy? Nothing. So,
yep.
Anyway, Commander Girl.
Now you made a comment about Mexico being the greatest threat. I don't entirely disagree with you, but honestly, the greatest threat to America comes from within our own borders, in my estimation, and it is the white liberal. Like Malcolm X was right. Check this guy out, Cohen. Right, Congressman Cohen. Listen to this shit.
We need people working in the front lines and local law enforcement to protect our citizens from the worst of the worst. The worst of the worst are not the immigrants. The worst of the worst, records show, are native-born Americans.
The worst of the worst are native-born Americans.
Mr. Cohen,
over and over again. Like, you know, Don Lemon married to a white man, famously telling us that white men are the greatest terror threat in the United States. I mean, point to it.
White men terrorize his bunghole. We know. Okay, I get it. I'm sorry. I feel sorry for you, Lemon. Cohen. Who is Cohen talking about? Which, because America isn't a nation anymore. America is basically a bunch of ethnicities fighting over the scraps of an empire. Okay, with the white majority, which is literally teetering right there on the edge. Okay, not playing the same game and pretending that life is as it was in, say, the 80s and 90s. Right, that's the state of America. Is Cohen talking about the feral, uneducated, and drug addicted urban black populations in this country? Do you think that's who he's talking about, Chris? No, he's talking about you. He's talking about me. That's who
I'm going to go out on
means.
a limb here and say likely not.
Yeah. I am the worst of the worst. That's who he's talking about. All right. Patrick Brown says you cannot coexist with people who want to kill you. Absolutely. Speaking of which, might be a glimmer of hope for the UK. There's a new party, Rupert Lowe. Rupert Lowe, controversial, but in the media's estimation, MP has decided to run himself for prime minister under the
Restore.
Caught me lacking. Caught lacking. Yeah, the Restore Party, right? And they're basically, their key platform is remigration, mass remigration. So mass deportation, right, in American terms. So I wish him all the best, because that island needs a ray of sunshine right now. Okay.
In that, with that, Tommy Robinson is out and about and in the U.S. right now, and he did Tim Pool Friday night. I just watched it. I just watched a good bit of it this morning, and man, Tommy Robinson talk about the issue. I didn't learn anything listening to Tommy Robinson, right? Everything he's saying is stuff that we already know and we've been talking about on this show. The difference is, the important value play here is Tommy Robinson is essentially a demonstration of the state trying to silence somebody once their voice gets too big. For Robinson, it's not that he was saying the wrong things. It's that he was saying the wrong things too loudly, because he made his documentary proving that the British government was essentially actively complicit in supporting and defending the rape gangs from the mass migration. So, a bunch of Muslims move into your country and they start stealing and raping and selling your daughters. And the government will watch them do it, and then they'll arrest you and incarcerate you for saying, I don't want them to do that.
The case for treason could be levied against every Western government, including our own. Okay.
Absolutely.
To be honest. As far as Tommy, I don't watch Tommy Robinson. Don't listen to him. Because look at an ever more increasingly authoritarian state in the United Kingdom, right? As far as speech laws, monitoring, okay, what you can be arrested for, the general pervasive atmosphere of fear, if you even wish to speak out about the destruction of your country, and yet Tommy Robinson is allowed to travel to the United States, like his UK passport is good to do that. You know what I mean? Tommy Robinson.
As I understand it, he did not travel to the U.S. from the UK. He had to go to another. The first time he traveled over here, he got arrested because he actually came over illegally.
Yeah, but thing about Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson was facing jail time in the United Kingdom. He made a deal. He made a deal with Israel, okay, to avoid prosecution, and so that if you look at Tommy Robinson, yeah, he's pro remigration. All right, he's pro England first, if you will, make Britain great again, right? But at the same time, he 100 he's 100% Zionist. Okay, he supports the state of Israel. He kind of was forced to make that deal to avoid being in prison in the UK. Okay, so do understand that to some degree. Not that what I'm sure most of what he said on Timcast was correct about the absolute state of the UK. All right, but at the same time, he's he's compromised to a certain degree by Israel. Okay, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole. What time do you need to be? What time do you need to be out?
I got a dentist appointment, so I got my heart out is in 25 minutes. So
okay. Do we have another
Crackshot says the south side of Chicago disagrees. Yeah, well, to tie it back to Mexico,
okay. They can be wrong.
The south side of Chicago disagrees, right? Well, see, the thing is, the south side of Chicago is kind of a microcosm, all right, of what has become of basically the entire Mexican state, all right, where drug trafficking and criminal gangs essentially have seized control. All right, have seized control of the streets, and the political leadership, like Mayor Johnson in Chicago, probably the most worthless mayor in America. Well, actually, no, that's not true. Mom Donnie took that award from him. He is double timing. He is double timing communistic collapse in New York City.
If Mexico had not caught on fire yesterday, this morning we would be talking about Mom Donnie's 5 forms of ID to shovel snow as emergency snow shovelers.
Yeah, largely unpaid. Okay, yeah, greater security to shovel snow than to vote in New York City. For obvious reasons. You saw the stuff in New York about how the snow melted and there was this feces all over the sidewalk.
Yeah.
There's mountains of trash everywhere in the streets. It looks like something out of oh God, what was the movie? Wasn't there a Highlander movie where like the ozone layer was completely destroyed, and the Earth, it was like a radioactive ultraviolet light.
I only ever watched the first Highlander. I don't know.
Okay, it was like the last one, and it was terrible. Okay, but anyway, yeah, that was the plot. So yeah, back to Chicago. So in Chicago, you have generational cultural transition into the criminal state of being as the norm. Okay, so the south side of Chicago is effectively it is a criminal organization. All right, not that everyone there are different gangs. Okay, I mean there's the gangster disciples. There's the whatever. I can't
just say a word that means Catholic, and it's the name of a Chicago gang.
Yeah. So yeah, south side of Chicago basically is nothing but open gang warfare, and there is very little economy, if anything, going on there. All right, other than Obama's monolith, other than Obama's like a gateway to hell from like Oblivion that he's building there. Yeah. That's all that's going on the south side of Chicago as far as industry is concerned. Okay,
the Obama lift.
And it's the same in Mexico, where crime has effectively overtaken the economy as the primary means of self benefit. Okay, so how do you deal with a situation like that? You can't. An entire generation of people has to die before you can even address it. Okay, it's the same in Mexico as far as because the cartels aren't just criminal organizations in Mexico. All right, they're like folk heroes. The cartels have kind of in a sense that the Italian mafia was romanticized to a degree in the United States through Martin Scorsese more than anyone else. All right, through classic films, right? Francis Coppola, classic films. Okay. but in Mexico, it's like the same thing, but even more so. The cartels are cool, basically, as far as the kids are concerned. The cartels are cool. Cartels
Right.
get money. Cartels wear the flashy cowboy boots, and they got the gold plated revolvers. All right, the finest Stetson cowboy hats. They're cool. So cartels are kind of like considered Robin Hood characters. All right, carteleños are considered like Robin Hood characters through a lot of Mexican culture, particularly Mexican youth. Okay,
Well,
and
yeah, like
that
today,
poison.
this is not a government. This is not a government hit squad right here.
Mhm.
This isn't like SWAT team or special forces.
Yeah,
This is the JNGC.
yeah, Jalisco.
This is the cartel forces right here.
Right. Well, so the leader El Mencho of Jalisco Nuevo Generacion cartel, he he was former like SWAT. Okay, he was
Right.
former police, and a lot of the leadership, okay, and the top lieutenants of Jalisco are they're former military. So that's an even worse situation where former operators from the Mexican military decided to join the cartel because they could make a fortune, and they already understand logistics. So you got like high level military professionals decided to create a cartel. And that's what Nuevo Generacion is. All right. So they're even more dangerous than, say, the Sinaloa cartel, which is the main competitor to Jalisco. All right. So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how long the Sinaloas even hold out.
Also,
Once the
on a,
Jalisco decides to turn their special forces guys on them,
they
because
found
they're no joke.
in the raid against El Mencho, the Mexican authorities found man pads. Okay, uh, rocket launchers for shooting down airplanes. I
Yeah.
really want to know where those came from. I bet they came from Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if some of the weaponry that's seized, all right, and that in this raid comes directly from Ukraine, because Zelensky's government was selling the military aid to basically make a personal fortune, massive fortune for him and his inner circle. But I'm sorry, I've been gone a week. I'm going to talk about everything. Okay, I can't help it. All right,
Do it, man.
forgive me.
Do it. You've been gone a week. We missed this Saturday night because I had a prior engagement. One of my daughters had to go to karate camp, and so we skipped the deep dive on Saturday. So we've still got to come up with 15 hours of streaming this month. Plus, I owe you guys one more raid. We'll do a raid this morning as well. Go ahead and get that one off the checklist. But yeah, Mario, do it, man. What you got?
Well, Cade says,
I'm gonna
sorry.
end up streaming some Diablo probably today and tomorrow.
Right. So, two comments here. Crackshot says Mexico is extremely poor. The cartel offers economic mobility. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and it's the same in the South Side of Chicago. When you get a situation where criminal activity has effectively ruined any investment opportunity for business. Okay, no, there will be no generation of business, jobs, economy in an area because of the crime problem. So then what happens? Crime becomes the only means of economic mobility. Okay, and it's basically it's a doom loop. Okay, it creates a doom loop. That's the South Side of Chicago, and outside of, say, tourism and agriculture, in Mexico, it's largely the same thing. Okay, um, Puerto Vallarta, uh, there was mass violence in Puerto Vallarta against authorities by the cartels. That's a major tourist area, right? U.S. State Department has issued basically remain in place, hold in place, bunker in place for U.S. citizens who are in Mexico right now, because the violence has broken out all across the country. Okay, uh, pretty much every major road. At some point, you're going to run into burned out vehicles, tire fires, and shit. Bloqueos set up by the cartels. Their plan right now is basically total operation chaos, and you know, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have my ear on the ground right now. I don't know what level of resilience the Mexican people have in, say, in as far as democratic, democratic impulses are concerned. How much can the Mexican people endure before they decide to flip on Scheinbaum? Not that I have any love for her, of course, the Prime Minister of Mexico. But it looks like, it looks like Jalisco wants to create a political crisis by creating chaos and lack of security throughout the entire country. Okay, because for the cartels, the only way there's going to for the cartels, as things normally operate in Mexico, there is relative peace and security, but that peace and security is backed by the cartels themselves. Okay, so this creates a challenge for the Mexican government in taking out El Mencho. Now they've got to basically stamp out all these wildfires, all these partisan groups essentially that spring up when you take out the top leadership. Okay, so I'll be interested to see how that plays out. I don't know, man. I mean, if I was Mexican, I would be, you know what, batting down the hatches. Let's fucking fight it out. Like, let's go. Let's go. Let's just rip this. Let's rip all the freaking band-aids off and scorch it all with flame. Make it clean again. But yeah, they don't. So with that is most countries. That is so.
Well,
Immigration to the United States. The immigration to the United States was in multiple waves. Okay, the first wave weren't even immigrants. All right, we're talking the original English, Irish, Scottish settlers came to this country. Some Germans. Right, they're pioneers. They're pioneers. They're explorers. Okay, there was nothing here. They had to build it. And then after that, you get a second wave of immigrants who come to work in the industries that were created by that first wave of settlers. Okay, who built this country, right? So that would be like the native heritage population, and then the Ellis Islanders. Okay, of which I am partly. Okay,
yeah,
and then you get a third wave
that's
of
the difference. That is the difference between a settler and an immigrant. A settler goes where there's nothing and builds a civilization. Right?
yeah,
That's what heritage
and,
Americans were. That's what heritage
yeah,
Americans are, the descendants of that. An immigrant,
that's right.
an immigrant is somebody who sees that somebody else has something and goes to take it from them.
There's 2 degrees of it though. That's where I'm getting there. There's a third wave. All right. The second wave would be like Ellis Islanders who came to legitimately work. All right, work in the industries that needed labor. All right, which turned the United States into an economic powerhouse. Okay, and then you've got the modern third wave of immigration, where it's people who come here. They're not even coming to work. They are leeches. They are coming here to scam, steal. All right, and take advantage of the system. India, I'm looking at you. All right. So scam immigrants is what we have now. Anyway, um, yeah, they don't solve problems in Mexico. They cross the border to escape. You are correct, crack shot. Part of the problem, that is why, if you're going to be a country like, if you're going to be the United States, okay, that's why it is so important to have rigid border security, okay? Because what is easier? Is it easier to topple an illegitimate government in your own country? Okay. Is it easy to remake a corrupt society from the ground up into something better? Okay. Or is it easier just to flee? It's always easier to flee. Okay. But if everybody flees, then what happens is that country just becomes a factor, a corrupt human factory that's just going to continue the process of emigration away from. Okay, and then there'll be a select group of individuals in the in the home country, which will profit enormously from that. Okay, that is India. That is exactly how India operates. Okay, with us, with our ancestors, there was nowhere to run to seek aid. There was the frontier, but the frontier offered no guarantees. Okay, the frontier, all it offered you was freedom,
And
and that
today we
freedom
don't even have a frontier.
and that freedom included potential certainty of death. Okay, but it was worth it. You know what I mean? Toppling, fixing your own society involves bloodshed, horror, and economic degradation. Okay, in the short term to achieve something greater. Anyway, let's see. What did Cade say earlier? I believe so. Leftist media outlets are finally labeling them as a legitimate army and praising Trump for 86ing due process. I
He
what?
didn't 86 due process.
I think he's making the comparison that the media likes it when the Mexican government basically acts outside of, say, a formal due process and just raids the shit out of someone. Okay, but if Trump does it, that's bad. Okay, I think that's what he's going for there. All right, Mario, you were about to address the current view of the Alien Enemies Act. No, I wasn't. I don't know what that is. I'm sorry. All right.
The Alien Enemies Act is the legal framework under which Trump is operating the mass deportation activities.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't know what's to discuss there. The Alien Enemies Act says, fuck them. They don't belong here. Send them home.
That's the judiciary is hopelessly corrupted at this point. Okay, like I said last week or a couple
Corrupted
weeks
we
ago,
could work with. It's been occupied.
Yeah, I mean, I said a few weeks ago, you know, if nothing else, the Trump's presidencies have basically ripped the mask off and shown to the American public the reality behind institutions. Okay, first Trump administration destroyed the credibility of the media. Right, nobody trusts the mainstream media at this point. Right, you're better off if you scanned Twitter for 15 minutes a day, you're probably better informed than someone who sits in front of CNN, Fox News, ABC, CBS. Okay,
Correct.
almost certainly. Okay, so first Trump administration, total collapse of mainstream.
If all you do is
credibility.
watch this show for 30 minutes every morning, you're better informed than somebody who gets all their news from MSNBC, CNN, CBS,
Quite
etc. And we're completely full of shit.
Quite possibly.
We're right about everything, but I mean, our eyes should be brown.
So yeah, and then the second Trump administration, we've seen the complete discrediting of the judiciary. Okay, basically the federal judiciary. Okay, doing everything they possibly can to stymie and slow walk every necessary action that the executive is to take. And like I said, it's now or never as far as extreme executive action to correct the endemic cancers in this country, okay, which have been allowed to fester unchecked for decades, if not 100 years. All right. So, yeah. So, I mean, look at SCOTUS, right? The Supreme Court recently voting against like some Trump tariffs, voting against like half of his tariffs from under the emergency whatever act from the Nixon administration, right? That's how Trump was implementing these tariffs.
You know what though? I love that as soon as they did that, Trump came out and said, "That's cool, whatever." There's this whole other law over here for tariffs, 10%. Fuck everybody.
Yeah,
try me.
Right. Yeah, and then obviously what I said would happen, what I was scared of. Yeah, absolutely. Of course they are. Okay. I believe John Roberts is compromised by Epstein. Okay. I believe John Roberts was compromised by Epstein. I can't prove it, but I've seen some weird stuff on the internet. Anyway, but Gavin Newsom immediately came out and was advocating that foreign governments sue the United States. Okay. Take us to international court. All right, and sue us to get a refund on whatever tariffs they paid. Like, you fucking traitor, you absolute fucking traitor.
Yeah.
All right. And yeah, what SCOTUS did essentially is, I mean, it's a form of treason. If you follow the logical progression of where this could go. All right. The U.S. Treasury being forced through international court. I'm sure Trump would probably tell them to fuck off. All right, but that would create its own problems. Okay. But you could bankrupt the country. You could send the country. The economy is already teetering. All right, through forces outside of any of our control. All right, but that could be the death knell. That could be the death knell for the U.S. economy. So Supreme Court, they're playing with fire. Okay, like they are playing with lit matches in the Library of Alexandria right now, with dry parchment everywhere. I don't know what the fuck. I don't know what is going on with them. I don't know what. Amy Coney Barrett is just young Ginsburg at this point, as far as I'm concerned.
I wish I could say I was disappointed in her, but I've been hyper skeptical of her since the beginning.
I don't trust women, period, in positions of authority. I don't like women in positions of authority at all. Okay? It's part of the reason I hated Fort Meade. Anyway. All right. Yeah, but Danny, I don't know. I don't know. Really disappointed with Gorsuch, absolutely. But.
All right. Well, it's about that time. We've got 1 hour down for today. I'll probably pop up just on Rumble and just stream a little Diablo later to make up the time, unless I get the gumption. I got some phone calls to make. But
one last thing.
I'm gonna go ahead and send you guys. Go ahead.
Hold on. Give me 60 seconds here. Crackshot brought up Iran. Okay, might as well touch on this briefly. Trump thinks only war with Iran will save the economy. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think Trump wants to attack Iran at all. Okay, I think. Okay, this is just in my mind. Okay, based on what I see, this is what I think is going on. There is no evidence of this. Okay, I think the Epstein file. There were no Epstein file dumps. Okay, and then suddenly millions and millions of documents start appearing. Okay, where Donald Trump apparently is not redacted, whereas other people are redacted in entirety. Right? Why would this be? If not a pressure campaign to get the Trump administration, this is a pressure campaign from Israel to get the Trump administration to attack Iran. Okay, I believe that Trump is being blackmailed right now by the state of Israel to attack Iran, and I hope Trump just in the end tells them, no, we're not going to do it. I don't care. I'm ancient. I might not live another 2 years. I don't give a shit. Do your worst to me. I refuse. I refuse to start a world war. I refuse to make the world less stable than it already is. All right. And if Trump can manage that, then I'll be satisfied with that.
And now that you mentioned that, we haven't talked about it yet, but there is a lot of pressure for a lot of powerful international interests clearly want a World War III to happen. And I think part of that is that what Donald Trump represents as an American figurehead, the interest in America first, shutting down the long-standing chain of abuses of foreign powers, just liquidating the American taxpayer, to our our exclusive detriment, and to their extraordinary profit. They need Donald Trump to have to be given the legacy of having been responsible for starting the Third World War, in order to delegitimize the future of American prosperity, so that they can forever say that if an American wants to make money, that is the same as the Holocaust. If an American wants to keep and bear arms, that is the same as the Holocaust.
It's happening again.
So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and initiate this raid over to Patriot News Outlet.
One last 10-second reaction. Aaron Olson says Alex Jones went on Fresh and Fit and said Trump thought everything was out and threatened to fire everyone if not all the documents were released. I don't know, maybe. Okay. Alex Jones takes the principle of you miss every shot you don't take. Okay. So he takes a shot at everything. The whole Alex Jones is right again. Yeah, the reason he's usually right about any one particular thing is because he'll say anything about everything. All right, I like Alex Jones, but I don't think he has half the context he claims he has. Okay, all right, that's all.
All right, I'm sending you guys to Chad Prather again because I ain't gonna lie, not particularly because I like the guy. I do like the guy, but frankly, I tried to send you to something else, and they don't accept raids. So guess what? They don't get a bunch of free views. Screw them.
Who are you rating?
Chad Prather. He's gonna tell you that Christ is king.
All right. Well,
get you some.
Fair enough.
It'll get y'all some Jesus. So thanks for tuning in this morning, guys. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow.
Ciao. Sorry, I'm like 100% stone fucking sober, which means I'm just fuck. Sorry, man. It's a problem. That's why I drink.
Mario drinks because it hurts to think this fast.